as I hugged her, even though she had oozing sores, I didn't want to be anywhere else. Do you ever feel like you're drowning in a sea of stigma, or you know someone who is? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 powerful ways to help others break free from this stigma. And I'm going to tell you this through telling you a story about one of my favorite moments I've had with a young street-entrenched lady. Well, I've been working in a youth resource center and shelter, and we had this one girl come to us who was the sweetest, most polite girl, but she just was so stuck in addiction and she was drowning in it. And she came and she was completely covered with sores all over her body, and she was really suffering from it. And the sores were oozing and they were all over the place, and she felt so ashamed of it. And she just was trying to hide, and we got her a hat to cover, and she just was hiding because she didn't want anyone to see her this way. And one day she was just so broken and she was just crying, and I was just looking at her, and I knew she just needed someone to come hug her, and she just needed someone to comfort her. But she had been scratching all day at these sores, and her hands were covered with goop, blood and pus, and she was an absolute mess. Since I was little, I've had these role models in my life, and these people who I've always wanted to be like, because they loved without bounds and they loved unconditionally. And one is Mother Teresa. Like, when I think of her, she didn't care who they were. She would just go out of her way, and she'd pour out herself into like the lowest of low people, and she always inspired me. And then Heidi Baker, I just remember being so inspired by stories where she like take lepers, people who suffer with leprosy, and she would just kiss their faces. And ultimately, I would just be so inspired by like the most famous person in history, Jesus. He would always go to the lepers and to the people that no one else wanted, and he would just go and love on them. So I've had these people like inspire me, and I always wanted to be like them. So here I had this opportunity. This girl is completely covered in bodily fluids, and I know she needs a hug. So I asked her, I'm like, do you need a hug? And she's like, yes. So I gave her a hug, and she's just like put her head on my shoulders. And here I am thinking, oh my goodness, I'm getting covered in this fluid. But at the same time, this was actually one of my favorite moments, because I felt her melt in my arms. And I'm like, this is what it's all about. It's about looking past the appearance, and it's about loving them no matter what. And of course we have to be wise, and I always pray about these things. To look past their appearance. If they're struggling with addiction, look past that. Look past the sores, and to see them for who they are, and find the gold in them, because there always is some. And the second one is, instead of walking away from them like the rest of the world is, to walk towards them. And it's so easy to just see them and like, oh, this is a mess, I don't want anything to do with it. We need to walk towards them. And before I get to my third point, did you know that you could actually walk towards marginalized people by just liking this video or commenting on it or subscribing to this channel? And the reason for that is this channel is all about giving voice to and empowering marginalized people and exploring ways that we can help reach out to them. And so the more interaction there is with this video, the more YouTube will send it out further. Now to the third way to help break stigma. We need to treat people with dignity. And the best way to know how to do that is to treat them the way you would want to be treated. So in this whole interaction with that one girl, if I were her, I would want people to not treat me like a disease. And if you are curious about other suggestions of how to treat people with dignity, you can watch this video.